So I am going to do a review for the final on Friday, and I'm going to focus this review on some of the grammar concepts because there were so many in this semester of Spanish. I hope that this is helpful. I've gone through the review a few times and picked up on some things that I thought were tricky, and so this review is going to kind of be more about that aspect of the final. So let's get started. So I'm just going to the first part is an audio listening, so I am going to skip down and start here, which jumps right into grammar. It immediately starts asking about pronouns that are direct and indirect, so this is a review of that. So for the first one here, the el consejero dar consejos a mi amiga y a mí. So you have two pronouns, one's indirect, one's direct. So we are talking about the counselor giving advice to a friend and me. So that is going to be the answer there. And one thing to keep in mind is that whenever you're setting up sentences that have both indirect and direct pronouns in them, indirect ones always come first. So the indirect pronoun in this sentence is talking about your friend and you. It's to your friend and you that you're giving the advice to. So that's nos. Lo refers to the advice itself. So that is how the first one is going to work. The second one, oops. Okay, so the second one, again, it's talking about giving you or writing for you a letter or card. So me refers to me right here, and then the la is una carta. Okay, this one, there is, let's see, just one direct pronoun in it, and it was about the friends, so you just need los here, and your friends invited them to dance, so it's just one pronoun. Okay, so this one, yo se lo pido. If you remember from when it was talking about combined double, basically direct and indirect objects in the same sentence, se is basically used if you have a sentence where there are two L pronouns. So for this one, if we really wrote it out how it would be without being replaced, you would have yo la lo pido. And la refers to the family Gomez, and lo refers to the work. But if you remember correctly, that whenever you have this kind of double la or lo or la and les, you cancel the indirect pronoun here and replace it with say. So that's what's going on in this sentence. Let's look at this next one. My roommate Okay, so again, we have say, because if we didn't replace it, the situation that we would have going on is the owner here, el dueño, would be lo, and then you have la for the rent, la renta. So again, you have the double lo la. So you're replacing the indirect, which is to the owner, to say. Okay? So that's kind of the indirect direct pronoun section of the test. Let's move on. So this one, talking about the future tense. So first let's review kind of the endings for future tense. And right off the bat, it's kind of nice because the AR, ER, and IR endings are all the same. So you have a, us, hemos, es, and han. Okay. So for the first one here, this summer my friends are not going to the house. So, okay, so ir, to go, is a conjugation that's going to look like this in the future tense. So, I mean, it pretty well, oops, I forgot the accent here. It pretty well follows the rule. Another thing I always remember about the future tense is the only area where it doesn't have an accent is in this plural we form. So here, okay, yo asistir. All right, so this one, easy, first person singular. Oh, and the other thing that I guess I didn't touch on yet is that for future and conditional, so really any future tense, we don't drop the AR, ER, and IR endings. Instead, it's pretty much the stem serves as the whole word, which is a little bit different than the past and present tenses. But if you can just kind of remember that's what the future tense is like. It's nice that for both the conditional and future tense, it stays relatively the same in that sense. So this one, salir, is oh, my computer does not want to do that right now. Okay. Wow. Okay, well that's supposed to have an accent over it, but it doesn't because my computer is acting up. But the ending for salir is the stem for it changes to sal. Like that in both the future and conditional tense. And there are, a few other verbs that do the same thing. So that's something to look out for when you're conjugating in this tense. The next one, terminar, And this one, you so this is another where the tense is a little bit different. So you have that unique stem there with the R included, tendra. Vivir. No change in the stem there. Mis amigas Anita and Nora Podir trabajar en un restaurant. Podir is another one with a weird tense, so the tense is like, or the stem is like that. So then we're going to add on second, third person plural, they. Encontraré, Nora, tomara, third person singular. Hacer has another weird stem, it's har. So this one's asking, what are you planning to do this summer? So the U ending, okay? So that is more or less the future tense. This one, okay, so these are mandatory sentences, and there's two different types of mandatory commands. So there's affirmative commands, which have their own rules that apply. So for affirmative commands, let's just look at those. So usually what happens is it's the third person singular but there are some exceptions. So here I'm going to list some of the exceptions. So we can look at those when we're going through this. Lots of irregularities in this these sections, so it's good to, I think, go through kind of all this stuff, each verb conjugation by section, to get these down. And these are negative commands over here. So negative commands are usually first person singular. So I'm going to do comer because it's an easy one. So comer in the first person singular is to eat, I eat, get rid of the O ending. And then for AR verbs, we add an ES. And for ER and IR verbs, we add AS. And to me, that's a little confusing just because, you have the AR verbs and you're adding an ES, and ER and you're adding an AS. And so in some ways that even kind of reminds me of the subjunctive tense where you're switching around some of the endings of things. So that's something to keep in mind when you're going through these as well. Okay, so now we have everything we need to kind of complete this section. So first one is obviously a negative one. So it's saying, you know, do not have food. So, and ER ending. So you have como. So it's going to be comas. The second one, levantarse. Okay, so this one is hard. Levantar is an AR verb. So you're going to go to the affirmative commands. It's third person singular. So that's levanta. And I believe that there's a you have to have some kind of accent, because there you go, because you have to, so when it has any kind of a reflexive ending like this, like say, and in this you're going to change it to te, because te is the informal you command. You have to add an accent to keep the way that the verb is supposed to be pronounced. So that's just like a little rule in this section to look at as well. This one's more easy. Third person singular again, because it's affirmative. This one is a negative, so, and it's salir. So you're going to have in first person singular salir salgo. So you're going to drop that O again and then add an AS. And this one is an affirmative. Hacer is one of those weird exceptions, irregulars. So it's just going to be has. Okay. So that is the mandatory commands, informal commands. The next section is on the subjunctive, so let's do that. So subjunctive has two sets of endings to know, but luckily, like I mentioned earlier, they're kind of easy just in the sense that they tend to be kind of the opposite of the regular present tense of things. And subjunctive tense is used to express uncertainty or doubt, or sometimes, you know, things that aren't always, I guess, certain, like people thinking about things or expressing, you know, ideas more. So there's the AR endings, which we'll do hablar because it's easy. So we have so instead of hablo, we have hable to begin with, and then we have hables, hable, hablemos instead of hablamos, hables, and hablen. And let's do ER and IR now. So we'll do comer because it's another easy one. Okay, so instead of como, we have coma, comas, coma, comamos, comes, and coman. So this is what I meant by, in this subjunctive tense, things tend to shift around where they're almost opposites. I like to think of it that way, at least. And that kind of helps me go through these. So, okay. So let's do the first one then. So they're talking about a student that will work. So you're going to have third person singular, trabajar. Okay. So instead of the trabaja, you have trabajae. And then, so this part, it took me rereading the sentence to realize what I did wrong. They're saying it's certain that we will go. So this, because it's expressing certainty, even though that there's that QUE in it, which often is a sign of the subjunctive tense, since they're expressing certainty, it's just straight up vamos. It's the regular present tense conjugation of ir. Okay, this one, it's important that she is a student at the university, so they're expressing their opinion that it's important, so it goes back to the subjunctive again, and that is sea, because she would be able to help us with our sons in their studies. So poder is pueda. It is also necessary that she has. So this one is that it's necessary. So it's another subjunctive tense, tenga. And that she lave, third person singular again. So necessary that she haga. And this one I had to look up, but basically it's sepa, which at first doesn't make sense to me because you're conjugating from the the indicative tense of the verb, so I would think that it would be say, but this is an irregular one, and I don't know if it's one that just it hasn't been covered yet in our textbook. This is saying that there is no doubt that we need a person who is responsible and punctual. So again, it's not expressing uncertainty. So it's just straight up first person plural for necesitar. And then this one is that, you know, they prefer a person who will follow, you know, who follows instructions in writing well. So this one again goes back to the subjunctive tense. Let's see. So subjunctive tense is kind of tricky to me. Okay, so now we're moving on to conditional tense, which is another form. It's the other form of the future tense, basically. And the nice thing about it is it follows the rules of the imperfect in a lot of ways, except that, again, for the stem, you don't drop AR, ER, and IR endings. So with that being said, though, the endings that you do add are the same in conditional and imperfect. So I think that's kind of nice. one less thing you have to memorize. Okay, so I think that you would like this work. So conditional tense also is talking about, you know, I guess I think of it as idealist type, like you would like to do something in an ideal world, or I think that you would want to do this, or I think you would go. So it's conditional. It's talking about things that ideally you would do. What would you do? So again, you have your stem is your whole word, and then you attach the IA ending. And the second part here, I'm just bringing this, say, the reflexive part of the verb out in front, and then I have portar, and it's talking about the children, so it's portarian. And their work would be perfect for you. So conditional tense of ser is seria. You would be able to study in the afternoon. So, okay, this is an irregular stem of poder, to be able to, and it's all of these stems that are found as irregular in the conditional form are also irregular in the future tense. So in that sense, it's helpful as well that both future tenses use the same irregular stem formations. And tenir is also one. So tenir turns into, that's the stem. And then it's talking about you. So this is the ending of it. Okay, and this next section is about preterite versus imperfect. So this, is about basically, is the action completed or is it still ongoing? That's the main difference with preterite and imperfect that I like to think of it. I like to think of preterite completed, imperfect ongoing, or habitual. So that's something that you'll see in this paragraph. So that means the action has happened more than once. So that being said, let's look at this paragraph. So, okay, the first one we have is the children were good every day. So we are going to use the imperfect tense in this because it's talking about a repetitive action or disposition. And again, imperfect here. Every day I got up at 6 in the morning. So again, it's saying every day. So I am going to use the imperfect here. And this imperfect tense is for AR endings. And if you remember, you have that Abba, Abbas, Abba, Abamos. Remember the accent here. A base and a bon. And then for imperfect with ER, IR, you have dun, 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 this, the conditional tense, except you drop the ER and IR ending. So the children always rose at that time. So again, the aban ending. I would cook eggs for breakfast. If it's saying I would cook, I use kochinaba. The parents of the children gave me instructions every day. Saying that they gave the instructions every day, we're going to use the imperfect tense of dar, which is to give. And after they would leave for work. So again, imperfect tense. This is going to be limpia vamos, la casa, or go play baseball, vamos. One day. Okay, so this one is interesting. This one is talking about a car crash, and this was an example in the book, but basically when you have a past action that was interrupted by something else, you're going to have a combination of imperfect and preterite. So one day while I was driving my car, so we're talking about was driving, we are going to use that, it's conducir, so it's going to be that IA ending. And the niños, were doing something, so it's again that imperfect ending. We were in an accident. So the actions that they were completing were interrupted by this accident. So this is going to be the regular preterite ending for tenir, to have an accident. And then this part says the other car crashed into mine. Well, the action only occurred once. It crashed. It's completed. So it's the preterite third person singular. And then it's saying that this person called 911. So it's completed as well. So that's kind of the way that I think about going through these sections and looking at preterite versus imperfect, is how was the action done, and is it currently completed or is it ongoing? Okay, this next section is on present perfect, which is an interesting tense as well. This tense is talking about, have you completed an action yet, or have you not, or have you not done something. So you have a few endings here that have to be memorized that go with your verb. And again, there are some irregularities with verbs in this tense. So there are going to be some words that don't follow this rule, but for most verbs, if you have an AR verb, you drop the AR and you have auto. Or if you have an IRER, you don't. Okay. So this first one is Elena is asking if Anita wrote the check to pay the rent. So you're going to say, have you, so has escrito. Escribir is one that doesn't follow the regular tendency for the verbs in the present perfect, so you have to know that ending, or that conjugation of the verb. So this one, she's saying no, because I didn't put the money in the bank. So first person singular, and then pones is again another that you just kind of have to memorize. Oh, I'm sorry. This one actually is puesto. That's the conjugation for the irregular. The next one is han enviado, not invitado. Okay, so you have parents, so that's third person plural, and then enviar, you drop the AR ending and you have enviado. This one is tenido. And then this one is talking about Nora and I, so it's hemos hecho. And hacer turns into hecho again in the present perfect, so it's another that just has to be memorized. So that kind of concludes all of the grammatical stuff in this test, in this review, and I hope it helped. There's a lot to memorize, so hopefully good luck studying, and yeah, thanks for watching.